We are going to now move along to action items. And first on the list of action items, A1, school resource officers. And we'd like to welcome from the Santa Rita School District. Would you like to introduce her?
Sure. I just want to preface this Ashley. Ms. Turner is here to answer any questions from a board perspective. But before that, just remind you that at the last board meeting, I gave a presentation around the history that Salinas Police Department received a grant for $391,599. It was a federal grant from the California Healthcare Research and Preventive Tobacco Tax Act, and that would fund SRO's school resource officers for 3 years. And so at that time, other districts declined on those services, and Santa Rita jumped on board and began to have school resource officers in their district starting in September 17th. The grant expires in August 2020, and so I asked the questions that you asked. A lot of them, which you have in your board packet, were around the responsibilities and the roles of the police department and the agreement between a district and them. So Santa Rita gratefully shared with us their memorandum of understanding between them and the city of Salinas. And then I thought, in talking to Ms. Ish, that a lot of the questions you were asking about were pertinent to you as board members. And so I invited Ms. Turner, who I know from my previous life in North Monterey Unified School District. We worked together. She's a great teacher leader. She is a teacher, a classroom teacher. She was also on the executive board of their union. And so I had the great privilege of, Sarah, you have volunteered for almost every teacher leader committee that I led during that time. And not only that, but then she ran for school board, and she is now the school board president in Santa Rita. So with that as a little bit of background, I'll just open it up to the board. I don't know if you want to give a little bit more history around school resource officers in Santa Rita.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Turner, as she mentioned, and I'm the school board president in Santa Rita Unified. And as Ms. Martinez also mentioned, I'm a teacher in North Monterey County District. I've been a teacher for 21 years, taught everything kindergarten through 5th grade. When there became a discussion in the city of Salinas around school resource officers, and there were several districts that were not interested, we as a board in Santa Rita actually approached the police department. They did not approach us. We went to them, and we said to them, we have schools that are in the city of Salinas city limits, and we also have schools that are on county land. Would this grant be able to work with our district or not? And it ended up being that yes, that we could. And then we took potential MOUs and worked on it until it was something that we were comfortable with. When we made the decision to adopt, there were family and community members in support of it. There were people that were against it, but there was a quorum of the board wanting to move forward. I feel that the main concern that people in the community had was that the police officers would some way be involved with discipline at the school, which has just not been the case at all. We keep those completely separate. The police officers do preventive programs with the kids. They're out there playing soccer with them at recess, being involved in different community events that they do. In no sense are they policing the students. We have not had an expulsion since the SROs were introduced to our district. The one doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the other, but that was a concern that people had, that there would be an increase in expulsions. We have not had an expulsion in the year and a half that we've had the SROs there. We do our discipline in a very positive way. We use the Character Counts program. Our goal is prevention. We have counselors at all of our schools. We're looking at a preventive model from the time that they enter. We've created a new preschool program within the past 2 years so that we're taking care of our students from pre-K through 8th grade. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but I really want to say from my perspective as a board president, I would not have done this if I didn't think it was in the best interest of the students, and everything that I've experienced in the past 18 months has reinforced that. I also teach in a district of North County that has SROs through the county sheriff's department, and that experience has also been positive. But I'm here to answer concerns that you have as a board member.
Can you tell me a little bit about the demographics?
As you guys know, as board members, we talked about like the unduplicated count, students who are low socioeconomic or 83 or English language learners or foster youth. That's 83% of the students in Santa Rita District, and about 2/3 of our students are English language learners. So we're talking about a different district that has very high ELL population, a very high low socioeconomic group. So it is reflective of some of your schools, not necessarily all, but that's the population of what we're looking at in North Salinas.
My question has to do with funding, because currently the school resource officers are being funded through a city grant. Are you getting any sense that that grant is going to continue, or we hear in this presentation tonight that it's going to end in August of 2020, which is next year. Do you have plans for what are you going to, like, if there were no grants available, are you so in love with your school resource officers that your district would consider funding them?
I think the first thing that we would do is look at, are there other outside grants available? Pretty much right now, all of our LCAP money is, we have no available dollars. The opportunity to do this was an easier choice for us because it was grant funded. We're not worried right now about the grant sunsetting. We've sort of had the opposite experience where we started with 2 school resource officers, and after they've been in the job for a year, they said, hey, we're going to add a 3rd person as a backup person so that if we have to go on vacation or if we have to take a sick day, we want to make sure that you still have the services. So they've actually increased the services that we have in the time that this program has been in place. If and when it sunsets, we're going to have a discussion for that. My first goal as a board member would be to look for outside funding, which there is some right now at the state level. And then after that, we would have to have a revote in terms of talking about, is this something that we want to pay for with our funds or not, which, as I said, right now all of our funds are paying for other things that we also consider essential to our kids.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board?
I just want to know, is it in all of your schools? Are they in all of your schools?
That's a good question. Because of the way that Santa Rita straddles the Salinas city limits, the Salinas Police Department needs to have just in compliance with the grant, they need to have the school resource officers be on city land 80% of the time. So we have schools that are completely outside of the city limits. So what we do is that we just structure their time in accordance with the grant. So we have some schools that get more services than others because of where they're geographically located, and we just maximize what can we do with the 20% of the time that they can be outside of the Salinas city limits. And sometimes that's crossing the street. I mean, we have areas of our district where one side of the street is within the city limits, and the other side of the street is outside of the city limits.
And my other question is the time. How much time is the city pulling them out of your school district to deal with the interests of the city of Salinas?
That's a good question, and I don't have really good data for you, but my basic, as I said, my feeling about it is really that it's not happening very much, because as I said, that was one of the reasons that they put a 3rd person to be available to us. If someone had to take, vacation time or was pulled for somebody else, their goal was that our service would remain the same.
So you're aware that when there were bomb threats at North Salinas High School and Everett Alvarez, your SROs were pulled to go handle those? I mean, were you told about those situations?
Uh,
Because there was a few.
Yeah, they communicate really well with the superintendent. They may or may not communicate immediately with me as a board member, but I felt really confident in terms of things that have happened. In certain times, if they've had to leave for a certain reason, they've given us, hey, this is why, and this is how we're going to make sure that if there, for instance, say there's a 5th grade class that did not receive part of the prevention program that we wanted to, this is how we're going to, make that up. And they also, they're around for after school events for us or things like Read Across America. I mean, they really try to make themselves available in terms of what's going on at the school and how can we contribute to it.
Thank you. Mr. Estrada, you had a comment?
No,
It's okay.
we're going to be able to have comments
Yes,
before
yes.
the actions take.
Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. We really appreciate your input.
No problem. And the last thing that I would want to say, we have not had a single parent complaint to the board since we instituted this program. We've had one community member who was not a parent who came to one board meeting who had a concern, but since then we've not had any parents that have, or I've received no emails, no phone calls, nothing. And so that to me means that the parents are happy with the services they're receiving.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
And then
Thank you so much for taking your time.
we really appreciate you hanging in there. And I want to thank you all for being so patient. So at this time, if there are any, well, first of all, how many of you would like to speak so we can get a sense of time? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? 10, okay. Thank you very much. Then at this time, we would like to invite members of the audience to make comments. Thank you. And when you come up, if you could please state your name and then your role. If you're a parent, if you are representing a community group, whatever. Thank you.
I'm going to pass on.
Sure.
And also, if you're going to speak in Spanish, make sure we have our translator here to speak in English. And if you're going to speak in English, make sure our translator is up here to translate in Spanish.
Good evening, board members and president. I gave you some package with extended research around SROs across the state.
Did you state your name?
Yeah, I will state it right now. I just want to make sure you know what you're getting. And a petition that was conducted in the community, unfortunately last minute, because a lot of the community were not aware this topic was going to be discussed tonight. My name is Alma Cervantes. I work with Building Healthy Communities. I'm a sister of 3 younger brothers and sisters that attend Salinas Elementary School District. One of them remains in Roosevelt. I'm a daughter of a mom, single mom with 9 kids. And unfortunately, she can't be here because we already know social factors that stop her from getting engaged in the community. So I'm here as a sister on behalf of my mom and representing the voice of my little sister as well. I have this conversation with them before coming here to see their ideas. In hopes of bringing you all collectively to see the unintended consequences that could happen if you vote in favor of SROs to your school funding and the school climate. I'm here to voice my concern. And my ask is to vote no on SROs, and if there's a consideration of voting yes, to actually take in consideration to have more extended community engagement, be more transparent with the community, because of a lot of our parents that you're represented are not here and are not aware of this conversation going on. I have an extended background around school climate and culture, supporting district and strategic planning and developing plans and tools that can support the community engagement within decision-making processes with the intention of creating robust solutions and equitable outcomes for students and families. I'm sure you're all aware of Salinas City, among other districts, losing millions of fundings, ADE money, because of the decrease of student attendance. The district has a budget deficit of $5.8 million. I understand that this is a complex issue and different factors contribute to why we're losing students. What brings me to this big concern? What are the solutions in place to stop this from happening? What are the multiple effects of losing funding and who will be more impacted by the cut of service and programs, which is the most vulnerable students and families in our district? Low income, English learners, special ed students, undocumented population, and special needs students. I want to put an emphasis on what are we risking by bringing SROs to our schools. Many of our families are undocumented and still can't distinguish between law enforcement and ICE. Let's think about the political climate that we're living in today's society, which is of fear. And I know Salinas districts has no intention of creating this. But sometimes we make decisions and we don't measure our impact. I ask you please to see the broader impact of SROs can create to your school climate, culture, and sustainability of the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
President, board members, my name is Matt Huerta, and I am a resident of Salinas. I have 3 children at Los Padres Elementary School. My wife teaches at Alisal, and I've been here since 2005. Been very active on affordable housing and many other community concerns here in Salinas. I am very invested in this community, and I am very concerned about our safety, the safety of my children. And I don't think that having SROs at this elementary school, at my elementary school, Los Padres, is the right decision. I fail to understand why we got to this point. I don't see an analysis. I don't see an assessment. I don't see data. I'm a housing professional that I'm required to have information, tons and tons of data, before I'm able to move forward with any kind of development, with any kind of housing policy that we know we need. We know we need that. We know we need housing, affordable housing, but yet we still have study after study after study after study, and we know we need safety. And if somebody really truly believes that we need SROs, show me the data. Show me why we need it, and maybe I'll support it. But I haven't seen it yet. In fact, the data that I have seen shows the opposite, that in fact, folks might be a lot more intimidated to go to school, to seek services, to engage in the community if we have that as a potential barrier. I think we can find other ways, other more efficient ways, more trust, ways that we can build trust with the police department here in the community. And I want to work with you on that. Many other of us here want to work with you and the police department and the city council and others to strike that balance. But I don't think this is the way right now, and certainly not the approach. I don't appreciate it. In fact, I'm a little offended that we got to this point so fast without really any community engagement. I think we all deserve better than that. And I think your leadership deserves, you as leaders deserve better than that. There was an accident last year, in fact. Another thing that people think about here on the news, there was somebody who, very well intended, but you bring an arms onto campus, accidents can happen. Something happened last year, I believe the year before in Seaside, and it hit the ceiling, thank God. But I don't want to imagine that. We don't have that issue right now on that campus with my 3 little ones. I don't want to have to think about accidents happening on that campus. If there's an emergency, we know who to call. We know how to deal with that. There's lots of other training going on around active shooter. There's other trainings that all our professionals there and administrators and teachers can take, other measures as the community can engage in. Please, please don't make this decision tonight. Consider all the other information and conduct the kind of analysis that we need to see on this issue. Thank you very much.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Rosa Espinosa y he sido presidenta y vice president de aquí del distrito Alisal y Salinas, de la mesa directiva de padres.
I've been a member of the board members for the parents for Alisal district and this district as well.
Y ahorita el tiempo no está corriendo porque yo soy de habla hispana, es mi native speaking language, y por lo tanto tengo derecho a que se me extienda mi tiempo.
Since my native language is Spanish, I'm assuming that I would get that extra time because that is my first language and I need that extra time to speak.
Esta junta no tiene validez porque desde el principio ustedes violaron nuestro derecho de padres de recibir interpretación y apropiado instrumento.
I think this lost validation because from the beginning of the meeting, I didn't see that I was being heard by me getting translation and translation services.
La señorita que intérprete, ¿cómo se llama usted? Diana Robles, usted me va a proveer el papel oficial que me la certifica que es una intérprete con derecho legal para interpretar.
I would like to see a document that shows that myself, Diana Ramirez, I'm the translator for the district and that I am qualified to do this translation for her.
Muchas gracias y ahora voy a hablar mi punto de opinión al respecto.
And now we'll begin my point on why we're here.
Muy buenas tardes, miembros directivos de la mesa de Distrito Salinas.
Good evening, board members of the Salinas Elementary School District.
Yo soy madre de un estudiante que se graduó de la Monterey Park, donde yo representé a esta escuela.
I am the parent of a daughter that graduated from Monterey Park School.
Por lo tanto, conozco muy bien el sistema y estoy oponiéndome a traer medidas de implementación policíaca que monitoreen y vigilen a nuestros hijos cuando deben de estar estudiando.
And for that reason, I am very familiar with the implementation that we've had before and the officers that we've been trying to get for our schools.
El terrorismo lo están inventando todos ustedes, porque me voy a remontar a la historia donde se le ha perseguido a los negros y a los hispanos para llenar las cárceles.
I think terrorism has been something invented by us because I've seen Afro-Americans being persecuted.
La historia se está repitiendo solo con diferentes rostros. En Salinas se están construyendo cárceles que ya están casi por implementarse a trabajar, en donde los que se van a reclutar para llenar estas cárceles son estos hijos, y yo los llamo mis hijos. Y saben, porque soy una líder comunitaria y no voy a permitir que ustedes atenten la salud mental de estos niños.
And we are experiencing the same problem, but just different face, different race. I believe that this implementation is not good for us because I think that it would only make our students become candidates for them to go in prison for we are signaling them as them.
Los acuso formalmente de perfil racial contra etnicidades residentes de aquí de los Estados Unidos, donde la mayoría de nosotros, el 75% somos hispanos inmigrantes, y estos niños están sujetos al trauma de persecución hasta de inmigración, del Departamento de Inmigración, donde el Departamento de Policía todavía los tortura y los atormenta. Aquí esta señorita tiene un perfil racial en donde yo no se voy a permitir que esté obrando aquí en Salinas. Nosotros en Salinas no somos unos terroristas.
I am thinking that this is a racial attack that we are getting here because I am seeing that 75% of our community is Hispanic, and I am accusing somebody that has spoken here before on the podium of racially attacking.
Yo soy estudiante del Colegio Harner y he sufrido en carne propia todo su racismo y discriminación que implementan contra nosotros. Yo soy testigo de todo lo que ustedes nos transmiten dentro del Departamento de Educación. Son cómplices tanto como el Departamento de Gobierno y el Departamento de Policía. Así que, señorita, le damos las muchas gracias. Su plan no está aprobado.
I was a student at Hartnell College, and I was also a victim of this racial criticism, and I believe that we shouldn't go forward with this plan, as she says. Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Rivera.
I'd like to remind people that we have a young Latina, and we're talking about people of color, who's here to do her job, and I would appreciate it if you wouldn't attack her while she's doing her job. She's just trying to help out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Primero que nada, quiero aclarar que en nuestras escuelas no hay ninguna inseguridad, no hay miedo, ni por parte de los niños, ni por parte de nosotros.
I just want to clarify that I don't think that there is fear or safety issues in our school from the parents or the students.
Excuse me, could you please tell us your name so we can get it on the minutes?
Mi nombre es Mireya Báez, tengo 2 niños. ¿Y qué más necesitas saber?
And the school.
Mis niños van a la Kemen, pero también estuvimos en Roosevelt.
Thank you.
My name is Nerea, and I have 2 students, and they attend Cameron School, but also attend Roosevelt School.
Ok, como decía, mis niños nunca me han dicho que tienen miedo de ir a la escuela. Yo no tengo miedo de que ellos estén en la escuela. Mi familia, amigos, los maestros, nadie ha dicho que los niños tienen miedo de ir a la escuela.
As I was saying, nobody has mentioned in my household that there is fear of going to school. My kids, my students have not said any of that.
Uno de los beneficios de tener los SROs en la escuela es por la seguridad, y en realidad no hay ningún problema de seguridad, entonces no estaríamos combatiendo ningún problema.
Well, one of the reasons why we would have the SROs in our district is for the problem for the security issue, and I believe that we don't have that issue in our district.
El segundo beneficio es crear las relaciones positivas entre la escuela y la comunidad.
And I know that one of the benefits would be to increase the community partnership between both of them.
No necesitamos tampoco oficiales de policía en la escuela para hacer eso, porque el departamento de policía, siendo parte de la comunidad, ya debería de estar involucrándose con los niños de la escuela de otra manera.
And I don't believe that that is a way that we need them in the school for, because they should be doing that outside of the schools to be part of our community and be with us children in that way.
El departamento de policía, siendo parte de la comunidad, tiene la obligación y la responsabilidad de crear estas relaciones positivas con la escuela, porque para el éxito de un niño necesitamos el hogar, la escuela y la comunidad unidos. Ahorita el departamento de policía ya debería de estar participando con los niños, y si no lo está haciendo, pues no está haciendo bien su trabajo.
I believe it's the duty and the responsibility of the officers to be doing so already outside of our schools to build that community and partnership with our students.
Y la forma no es tenerlos en la escuela todos los días, ni estarles pagando extra dinero. La forma es que ellos visitaran nuestras escuelas una vez al año y conversaran con los niños sobre su trabajo. También invitarlos al departamento de policía, enseñarles las instalaciones, el sistema, y hacer y contestarles preguntas. Eso sería de vez en cuando, no todo el día ni todos los días. No los necesitamos en la escuela todos los días.
And I don't believe that they should be in our school every day to be doing this partnership with them. They can do presentations at the schools maybe once a year, but not by having them every day at the school sites.
Los dos beneficios que nos están diciendo, no, para eso no se necesitan los policías en la escuela, no estamos agarrando nada extra, es innecesario. Más que nada están beneficiando la pipa de la escuela a la prisión, y ya sabemos que por ser latinos nuestros niños tienen más probabilidades, y ustedes solo estarían creando un ambiente más positivo para que eso se realice.
And I believe this is only increasing the chances of them being targeted to go into prison by having the officers in the schools.
Nuestros niños necesitan otras cosas, prioridades más importantes, y tener a los policías en la escuela no es una.
And I think we have other needs, more important needs in our schools right now than having the SROs in our district.
Thank you very much.
I don't like to be on these soapboxes, but for the purpose of expressing myself, and I know data is important. I think everybody in this room, cada persona aquí quiere la paz para sus hijos en la escuela y la comunidad. And I believe that not only the school district, but all the city officials and all the community organizations have an opportunity right now, because you have a lot of individuals that want to invest their time to making Salinas a more peaceful place. But if you don't address the root causes, you're just going to spin your wheels. If you address the problem in the same way, you're going to get the same results. So I'm a product of those oppressive systems. I want to read something from a dictionary. about internalized oppression. Sometimes members of marginalized groups have an oppressive view toward their own group. They start to affirm negative stereotypes of themselves. Internalized oppression manifests on a group level as well as an individual one. Internalized oppression may result in conflict within the group and discrimination among the group. So I think you get it, I think you're all educated, you know what I mean. If we don't start dealing with the root causes, especially in elementary school, police officers are going to provide that stigma to the kids that they are criminals because you have armed cops in uniforms. Instead of, why don't they take the $3 million and get help with their PTSD? That's what I'd like to suggest. Thank you very much.
Good evening, members of the school board. Cesar Lara, I'm with the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council. I'm also with Building Healthy Communities as a collaborative partner, but I'm also a father of 3 that attend your schools, and I am a product of your school district. I graduated from Roosevelt, graduated a couple times in kindergarten, and then later on when I left there. And I'm here to ask that you say no on school resource officers. I'm going to ask those in the community that are here that are opposed to SRO officers to wave their hands and stand up. And we have a number of issues that we have with the school resource officer issue. The first is funding. There is no guaranteed funding after August 2020, and the last thing you want to do is interrupt the school environment while you introduce school resource officers, and at the end, no plan to keep it forward, or even worse, take education funding out to support the police officers. The second, that some parents were asking, because we collected a number of signatures on the petition, 200 and something signatures, which clearly says what school they're from and what community they're from, that they wanted to see the MOU. So much misinformation was given out about what they do, what they don't do on both sides. Spanish version of the MOU for those Spanish speakers and the English version as well. None of that information was given out. For most parents, they didn't know this was on the table and they were opposed to it. And the third is wording in the MOU itself. There's a number of sections that are really disturbing to me, especially that the police chief has control over everything. They can assign them where they want them, they pick who they are, they do their own trainings, and they do throw a bone saying, if you want to train them extra and pay it out of your own pocket, you can, but it doesn't give you any discretion on the officers. And the third is what some of the staff at the Santa Rita School District have expressed to me as concerns, is that police officers having access to students' CUNY files. At the end, that is a major privacy concern. I don't want a police officer going through my children's CUNY files. And the staff has really expressed that. And I ask that you vote no on it. This is A, not steady funding, B, disturbing the school environment, and third, the school to prison pipeline issue. It's real, it does exist. The number of police officers being introduced to schools have seen the number into prison beds, into disciplinary actions. Not this simple study of a year and a half worth of one school district and one school is one issue, but other school districts that have SRO officers had major police referral issues. The Monterey Peninsula Unified School District has the highest police referrals from on the Central Coast, from Santa Cruz County down to Ventura. And they've been trying to address this problem. And we don't want you to be in that situation, especially with young kids, with my kids, with the kids in this community. So I'll ask you to vote no on it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Demetrio Promeda. I started teaching here in Salinas in 1975 and Salinas City Elementary School District September the 8th of 1975 to be exact. And I'm an active teacher now as a substitute teacher. So I just want to remind each and every one of us here that elementary students see their school as their second home. Unfortunately, unresolved immigration issues is putting lots of undue stress on our school children. The close link between our police and ICE only serves to add the stress to our students. It also appears that the implementation of police in our schools has not been clearly explained to the Salinas City Elementary School District communities. The community must be fully informed of the pros and cons of police in our primary school campuses. After all, schools are exclusively designed as educational sanctuaries. Personally, I would like all of us to diligently work with the law enforcement to co-create a reality of fairness, equality, and justice for all. Our local communities should use a process of broad stakeholders' input and a democratic decision-making to fairly implement any program. Excluding them is a guaranteed failure. I just heard a few minutes ago that the agency that wants to implement the police in our schools will not come and give a public presentation if they are not guaranteed the green light. I'm outraged, so should you. That is really, really unprofessional. In the final analysis, I would like, at the very, very least, for you to table this item until we have exhausted a truly democratic decision-making process. But in reality, I would love for you to vote no. Thank you very much.
Good evening, board members, and everyone who's present tonight. My name is Sally Pineda, and I've worked for the Salinas City School District for about 40 years or more. I worked 30 years at Roosevelt, and I've been subbing for 10 years. And I've always felt safe in school. I can't remember a time where I didn't. There was one time when I was teaching vice principal at Roosevelt that I asked an officer to come over and speak to the children. But that was the only one time where I felt that the officer should come to the school and speak. And I have nothing against officers. Some of my former students are officers too. And I have a lot of respect and admiration for their jobs. So it's not about not liking peace officers. It's about having a separate place for children, where children can feel that a school is their second home, where they can feel comfortable to talk, to share with one another. I'm also here for my great-granddaughter. My great-granddaughter's a student in kinder here in this district. And I know that if she saw a police officer in the school, that would really freak her out. She's a very sensitive child. And I thought about her because one day while I was subbing in Salinas City School District, I was subbing in a first grade class in one of the schools here. And I saw a little girl in the corner of the room, very disturbed little girl, and my heart went out to her. So I went up to her and I asked her in Spanish, "Mija, ¿qué te pasa?" She told me in Spanish, "My mommy's not with me anymore." And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "She was sent back to Mexico. So now I'm living with my grandmother, but I miss my mommy." My heart just went out to her. If she were to see a peace officer in the school, I'm sure that would disturb her. I'm sure that would bring back some memories. Peace officers have their job, but they can be around the school, they can be near the school. They're not in the school. Please, please vote no. I love the children, that's why I haven't left them. I would do anything in the world for them. And that's why I'm here in front of you today. Thank you very much.
Board. My name is Josh Wolf. I'm a lifelong resident of Castro and Salinas. All my children went to Salinas City Elementary Schools. I came, one reason for tonight is to, I do not support SROs in the school. In the course of my job, I've seen 3 incidences where SROs have harassed parents who they assume were students at the high schools. And the point earlier made that nobody's ever complained is, who do you complain to about the cops?
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if we could have the four speakers come back up. We want to thank you again for being so gracious and allowing us this little break. I hope I didn't scare you away. Is it Margaret? Oh, no, please, go ahead. I'm in the middle. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Oh, no, please. Okay. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. My name is Kimberly Craig, and I am a resident of North Salinas. And in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a former councilwoman for the city of Salinas. And the city of Salinas sent me back to Washington, D.C. to ask for this grant money from the Department of Justice. To give you a little bit of background, the Department of Justice also worked on collaborative reform with our Salinas Police Department and pretty much went hard on the department in terms of some of the community outreach that we needed to accomplish. At the time, and again, I'll be in the interest of full disclosure, I am a citizen, I'm no longer an elected official. But at the time, one of the things that was really, really important was community outreach, transparency, accountability with our police department. We have officers with the School Resource Officer Program that are doing great work in North Salinas. North Salinas, Santa Rita is my former district. And I was really, really concerned about the dynamic of what was going on, particularly with Salinas City Elementary School District, with Salinas Unified High School District, and just really concerned about some of the community feedback. What I will share from you, this is my first Salinas City Elementary School District meeting, is this is a very intimidating atmosphere right now. You have two major groups that have stacked the room full of people. What I'm here to share with you is the tremendous amount of positive, reinforced, community-engaged relationships that we have going on at the Santa Rita School District. And the dozens, the hundreds, the thousands of parents who aren't at this meeting, who are wanting school resource officers, but are too intimidated to come and speak in public comment. This is a really, I'm getting boo hisses right now. So this is the thing that I identify with, and I recognize this is an uncomfortable thing, but the reality is we have great things going on in the Santa Rita School District. I commend you. I certainly know what it's like to sit at a dais with a packed room full of people. I commend you for your community service. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Galimba, for making it a priority to be here today for this particular vote. It's a very important one. Lastly, what I will just acknowledge is the Department of Justice gave the City of Salinas an extension already. They're highly motivated to put officers in as school resource officers. I know that the extension goes until 2020. I think if we were to show that we are expanding the program into new school districts, that they would be open to extending that grant as well. And lastly, I will just say this. The 8 officers, let me finish my sentence. The 8 officers who applied to be school resource officers are dads in this school district. They coach for Junior Giants in Salinas Pal. They are members of this community, and they would love to represent it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, I'm glad everybody's not bringing. Margaret Sedna-Benetti, and first I'd like to start off by saying that I feel very offended that someone would stand up here and say that they feel unsafe in a room full of, I don't know, brown people. That is, and maybe that's what we're talking about here, because that's what I hear other people saying as well, and that's how I feel, and that's what I've experienced as well. I've served on the high school board. I served with, Ms. Ramirez, and I know we both saw some of the same problems that were going on in our high school district. I myself personally witnessed police officers abusing, beating. I think she also saw some different instances, but beating students. And we had no say whatsoever as to what they did. I personally saw a police officer deploy a taser in a crowded, full of 8th grade students. And luckily he missed, but he could have caught anybody with that taser. I was outraged, and I reported him to the police department. I find it very disheartening that this would even be on this agenda at this point when there has been no proper agendizing of the, presentation of it. I personally, I think if I wanted to build a house, I wouldn't go to my neighbor and say, who built your house? What did you think about it? Okay, I think I'll hire them. I want to see a blueprint. I want to see the structure. I don't think it's proper to have, and I like Ms. Turner, but I just don't think that's a proper presentation to ask a board member from another school to come in and tell you what that board member thinks. If you're going to do that, then get a board member from Salinas Union High School, get a board member from LSL School, get a board member from all these places and let them. But then that means you're not listening to your community. And at this point, what I see is the police department strong-arming this body. We will not do this, we will not be here unless you count 1, 2, 3, and then we'll come. That is against the Brown Act. That's illegal. That's a violation. And that's a violation of your rights. And you know that. Allowing them on campus, they do have access to CUMES, they do have access to records. Your principals and your teachers should have that access. You don't even have that access. You know, Mr. Kim, can you go into a school and say, I don't want to see John Doe's student record? They're going to tell you, no, I'm sorry, you're a board member, but you don't have access. They're going to tell you the same thing, Mr. Galimba. And they're telling you the right thing because you shouldn't have access. And they want to come here and they're saying they're going to work in good faith when they're already showing they have no good faith. There's the there's the educational system and there's the criminal justice system. This is an editorial system. And the education system has difficulty with funding. As you know, you're already talking about being in the red with your budget. You should not commingle. It is difficult enough when we spend more money to educate, to put kids in prison, to put people in prison than is spent per student. You have two different functions. Remember that. Vote no on this. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jacob Juarez, a Salinas resident and a member of Buckton 12 Theater Education Company. I just wanted to share a story from when I was in high school, 2008, 2009. I'm a Salinas High alumni. This incident happened just 1 block away. It was around the time that Salinas was having a bad problem. And because so, they implemented the officers into the high schools. We were basically the first experiment. The only time I had ever seen an officer intervene with anything was during a fight, and he decided to treat this young child like a full-grown inmate by slamming him on the floor and using his baton up against his nose. I'm sorry, I can't go any further, but there's the story. I hope you enjoyed it.
Good evening, board members. My name is Israel Villa. I'm the program and policy coordinator with MIPA, local community-based organization. I'm also the father of this amazing young man who's a 3rd grader at Academy School. So I'm here on behalf of my son and a lot of other kids, a lot of parents who do not even know what's going on. They're not aware of this conversation. There has been absolutely no community engagement process at all. Not last year, not this year. Again, it's obvious they're trying to streamline this issue. We collected a whole bunch of signatures, and there's more than 2 organizations represented here. There's actually quite a few. I see more community than community-based organizations here. Another thing I want to say, I have my personal opinions about the police and my experience with them, and none of it has been good. And there's 2 different, it's obvious we may have different realities. Some folks see them in a good light. A lot of folks do not see them in a good light. A lot of folks are actually scared of them. And there's many, many reasons to justify that fear, including, homicides that happened here in Salinas not that long ago that we have not forgotten, that we're still trying to heal from. And we're talking about 5 Latino men. A major concern of mine, and a lot of the people who signed this petition, is again, the lack of community engagement. We're also aware of the report from the Department of Justice. It's this big. If you have not done your research, please do your research with the list of flags and concerns due to the lack of trust. And another list with recommendations, which I believe you should have a copy within your folders. I also have the original petitions. If you guys need them, you guys got Xerox copies. I will leave them here with you. Again, no one's going to benefit from this. Cops do not belong in schools. Cops belong in the streets. The only people that are actually going to benefit is the police department and perhaps the city, right? What's going on currently is they're building a brand new juvenile hall, they're building a brand new jail, and they're building a brand new police department, millions and millions and millions of dollars, which speaks clearly and loudly, speaks clearly and loudly of their values. And it's not us, it's not our community, right? So again, I ask you for a no vote, and I ask you to do what is right and to listen to the community. I'm aware that other parents came forth at the last meeting. I've seen the minutes, I've seen the video. We were not aware of this. We just found out, we were just made aware of this, and this is what happened in 1 week worth of talking to our community. And it's, again, you got signatures, you got the schools that their kids are in, the schools that their relatives are in, and their relations. And again, I ask firmly for a no vote. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Noelia Verwolf, and I'm here as a community member and as a parent as well. I ask you to not support this. My experience with them has been negative. Someone mentioned earlier North Salinas High School, that specific school. I had a child there, and I myself have been harassed in that school by officers thinking that I was a student. And so on different occasions, students have been threatened by using like police force because it's there. And there's too much room for abuse. And schools, that's not a healthy environment. You know, we need to create an environment where students can come and feel free to learn, to have a positive engagement with teachers and counselors and staff. And so I don't think this is the way. We need more training for teachers on how to communicate with the students, to be able to talk about, education or what have you, build a rapport. This is not the answer.
Thank you. I feel like I'm always stopping you, but before we go on, Mr. Ramos, you're our last speaker, so the line just keeps getting longer and longer. So we only had 4 speakers before we went to break, and in the interest of time, if there's anyone who'd like to go after Mr. Ramos, would you like to just stand up right now? And then, okay, so now we have the 5 people, and thank you very much.
Point of order?
Oh, yes.
Just to remind you folks, we're listening to every single one of you, and it's important that people who have a differing view be able to come up and speak as well. So what I would ask is that, no booing, please, and if you could tone down on the clapping as well. Just let's keep it professional and keep it low key, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Estrada.
Good evening again. So I want to take you back to 2004. I was a distinguished football player, very well in academics, if I may say so myself, and also the son of esteemed community member. My SRO at Alizada High School, me and my friends walked to school. He sat 4 of us down outside of Alizada High School on Williams Road, make us take our shirts off. 3 other patrol units got there. They took pictures of us, and we were productive students. We were football players, and it was, in my opinion, an absolute disgrace. That doesn't say that I don't appreciate what police officers do. I think they serve their purpose, but absolutely not in school. I have a 5th grade son at Los Padres Elementary. This morning I asked him, what would you think if there was a police officer in your school? And he very firmly said, I'd be scared. I'd be scared. Why would there need to be a police officer in my school? And I say this, and I say this with all humility. My son is a affluent child that lives on a very beautiful side of Salinas. We live over in Mr. Estrada's district, and I'm just terrified to think of what our non-affluent kids that see police officers in a different light would think about this. So I also want to take you to December 14th, 2012. A horrible example of an SRO being at a school site and not doing anything. Sandy Hook Elementary in Connecticut. There was an SRO there, he never engaged the shooter, and for the result, 28 people were killed. 20 students that were 6 years old were killed, and this person was on campus. So those are just some of the impacts. I also share all of the sentiments that Mr. Huerta, my peer parent, shared with you guys. It almost seems like, and I will say, it almost seems like there's a hidden agenda that wants to be pushed through very swiftly under the carpet. I would recommend tabling this, go to the school sites and get the feedback, and I guarantee you that everything will be a lot different than what you think. That feedback will be all negative against SROs. Mr. Estrada, I voted for you with all confidence, so I would really urge you to vote no. Mr. Kim, my son goes to the school that you represent, Los Padres. I would urge you to vote no, and the same with every single other person on this board. I would strongly urge you to vote this down. Thank you.
Good evening, District Board. My name is Jesse Perez. I am the Secretary for the LULAC NAACP Coalition. 3 months ago, the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District voted 4-3 to reinstate the SRO program in their schools. 2 weeks ago, the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District, in a last-minute effort, sneaking it in on the consent agenda, had an item for them to vote on acquiring a contract with a company out of up North Valley that would provide detection canines, basically drug sniffing dogs. Had organizations like Building Healthy Communities, FILPA, NAACP, and LULAC not been at that meeting 2 weeks ago, they would have voted in favor of bringing dog sniffing dogs or drug sniffing dogs onto the campuses of Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. Fortunately, these 4 organizations voiced our opinion, and the vote was 5-2 against getting that contract. I would ask the board to consider the fact that, as other speakers have said, schools are a place of learning, not law enforcement.
Good evening, buenas noches. My name is Edgar Ernesto Ibarra Gutierrez. I'm with MIPA, Motivating Individual Leadership for Public Advancement, located here in Salinas. You know, we talk about building community, building community, but I don't see no community being built here. I see eventing and backdooring happening. No honesty being really up front with the parents, with the kids, with the teachers, with everyone. This was seems like it was a last minute thing. So kind of just in that sense, what happened with respect? What happened with decency? Engaging our community, or is the community not that important? And then that's something to me is like, ask yourself, is the community not that important? We need it all the time, regardless of what the issue might be, the smallest to the biggest. We need to always involve the community, get their input. The community knows what it needs. That's the only way we're gonna know what they really need. Our kids, the kids at elementary schools, come on, let's be realistic. Ain't no kid in a first grader, second grader committing crimes for a freaking SRO to be at a school. That's just the reality of it. There should be no kids, first graders to sixth graders, being ever put in that situation. From 2006 to 2016, there was a report that 600 and something kids were arrested under the age of 12, 6 of them being 6 years old in Monterey County. 6-year-old kids being arrested. Is that what we want here? You know, so when we start really thinking about that, you know, I would really urge y'all, really think, prioritize. Where's our values? Where's respect, decency, loyalty, family, community? What does that mean to y'all? Because what's happening here, that's not what it is. You know, and I don't mean to come off a little bit aggressive, but that's what it is. I am brown, and I am a man, so it can be misinterpreted at times, you know? But what I want to say is that these kids deserve better. These teachers deserve better. They need more money. The teachers need more money. If the school's so preoccupied in getting school resource officers, do the same, put the exact same effort into go getting more money for these teachers. Better salary, better benefits. We know that they're going to get, the kids are going to benefit from that. We need all gas, no brakes, straight up. That's what they need. And we just got to, so just keeping in mind the kids, the safety and well-being, more counselors. You know, what if a little kid walked, I remember when I was a kid, I used to be hungry all the time. I used to go to school. A little milk and a little cereal ain't gonna do me justice. I'm growing. You know, I need a whole bunch of stuff. So, you know, just keeping that in mind, we always gotta think about what the kids need. And so I really just think about it now, I wanna just emphasize to y'all, really think about respect and decency and what that means in community. Loyalty, trust, family. Family being above all, you know. Community is a family. Family is community. So with that said, I would strongly urge you to vote no on SROs. And you know, put some time and effort to get these teachers more money and the resources that they need, get more counselors. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Oscar Ramos. I am not here to speak on behalf of SCTC. I am a parent with a son in 5th grade at Sherwood School. I'm here to speak as a parent, not as the president of Salinas Elementary Teachers Council. So I wasn't planning on speaking, but I jotted down a few notes, and I'm going to start off with the question. I think it was Mrs. Craig who said that there are 8 officers are from our district or our city. So my question is, why aren't they here talking to us like we asked, if they really believe in this program? What's keeping them from presenting what their program looks like and what they offer? And secondly, I want to tell you that in order for any program, and we all know this, in order for any program to work, you need to have buy-in. Buy-in from everyone, and we don't have it here. You don't have it from teachers because we haven't brought it to the teachers. You obviously don't have it from a lot of the parents who are here. They all have different opinions. You know, as the executive board, you don't have buy-in from executive board. We disagree on it too, and that's fine. We don't have to agree on everything. So we need to have buy-in from everyone, and you know what? I urge you to vote no, because there are alternative programs out there that parents would agree to have that will do the same thing they do, because what's going to happen when the grant runs out? Ms. Craig believes that they might extend it. Well, Mike doesn't work here. We don't have money. We need guarantees. Will they have it or not? We can't work on mics. So it just feels like we're divided, right? And don't make me quote Abraham Lincoln, because I'm a teacher. You know? A house divided against itself cannot stand, and we are definitely divided on this issue. So vote no.
Good evening. I guess I'm the grand finale. Hi, my name is Rosalind Green Charles. I originally came to support, to stand in unity and solidarity with my brothers and sisters in the community. I am here as representation from Building Healthy Communities in collaboration with MILPA, also LULAC, and in AACP collaboration. Also governing for racial equity with also Whites for Racial Equity, excuse me. So the list goes on and on and on. On the flip side of that, I also participate with the multidisciplinary team and the Blue Ribbon Task Force team over in my own community of Seaside. So I say that to say that I'm not anti-police at all. In fact, that's my next job. I don't want to really say that out loud. No, nobody boo me, please. Getting back to the point, I find that this district is K through 6. Is that correct? So it's very disturbing to think that it's even a thought to bring SROs on campuses here. To me, it sounds like we are planting seeds with our little ones. We're gonna have the SRO there for what? Because my thing as a child, I would ask teacher or even my parents, why are the police here? You know, why are they, is there something wrong? You know, so the first instinct would be fear before safety, because if police are here and this is supposed to be a safe zone, there must be a problem. So I don't think that we should, as has been said before, put the law enforcement in the education system. I think that if we want to establish a good working relationship, then it needs to be done in the community. It needs to be done with whole families. We need to start with the parents, and we need to start with, you know, the aunties, the uncles, the grandparents, the cousins, because it can also have an adverse effect on a child who may have had some trauma and some disparities and some negative run-ins, not to know where their trust lies, or even when they go home, you know, to think, well, you know, I'm over here engaging and it's not quite right here. So that leaves a traumatic experience that the children have to go through. And so if we want to address the real issues, let's put counselors in the school and let's just love our kids and not police them. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you to all of you who spoke on both sides. This is a very complicated issue. I wanted to let you know the history of the SROs in Salinas City Elementary School District. A little over, is it about 2 years ago? Mrs. Martinez approached the board at that time and asked if we would be willing to partake in the grant or listen to that, and even think about bringing SROs into the district. The board at that time felt what I'm hearing from you tonight, that we did not have community input, so we said no. That was a little over 2 years ago. About 4 months ago, a group of parents from Los Padres School came to this board meeting and during public comment asked us to reconsider bringing SROs to the school district. At that time, the board directed Superintendent Martinez to bring us some information. We didn't even know if the grant was still available to us. Mrs. Martinez went out and got us some information, and it was brought back to us at a board meeting 2 meetings ago as an information item. So it became a part of our agenda. And that was in December or January? It was December, January. Anyway.
So this has been an ongoing item for the last 4 board meetings. We've been talking about this. So it's been, it started off as an information item. We've had groups of parents present at the last 3 meetings in favor, overwhelmingly in favor of the SROs. And so tonight, this is a different audience, a different crowd, and I'll listen to your perspectives. But again, it was through parents coming to us requesting that we consider the SROs, not me bringing it to the board. It was parents driven by parents, and I wouldn't just say it was Los Padres. We had parents here from Mission Park. We had parents here from several different schools that were in favor of having school resource officers. And I think the name itself, I just need to say this. I was a principal for 6 years, and I had a school resource officer in a K-6 school. The school resource officer was not there every day, but when they were there, the kids absolutely loved this person. They became a regular part of our community. I too, believe it or not, have had very many, well, not very many, but at least 2 or 3 adverse experiences with police officers. But put that aside, I look at my experience as a school principal, the experiences that I had, and the kids had, and the relationships, and the building of bringing community to the school was so far outweighed than my own personal experiences that I've had that have been adverse. And so, that said, I just want to say that we did not bring this to the board. Parents brought it to the board. And that started about 3 months ago, and it's been ongoing. And so today it was an action item because there's been discussion after discussion and discussion about this. And so it is here tonight for the board to decide que sí or que no.
Madam President,
Yes.
can I just respond? Just the reality is, according to my information,
Can
that
you
the
come
paper-
forward to the podium, please?
And then,
And-
we know who you are, but can you
Yes.
restate your name?
Demetrio Pruneda. Superintendent Martinez, I appreciate what you're sharing, but the reality is that the vast majority of the community, the parents, were not informed. The parents that I think you're talking about are the parents that are in committees which had the preview of listening to police officers before they came to you. Thank you.
So, yes, but I just, before we even go on, I wanted to thank again Diana Ramirez for doing such an excellent job of translating tonight. There's been a lot said. I don't believe she's missed anything, so I really want to thank you publicly. Now, the board, does anybody have any comments or questions, or does anybody have anything that they'd like to say? Okay.
Creo que en Spanish, let me summarize it.
Please.
Voy a hablarles en español y después voy a hacer un resumen en inglés. Voy a empezar diciendo que todo ser humano tiene el derecho de equivocarse y tiene el derecho de cambiar de opinión. Yo no había escuchado este punto de vista. Había escuchado nomás un solo punto de vista, contrario. ¿Okay? Ahora, yo no puedo decir mucho más de lo que ya se ha dicho en este momento, pero lo que sí sé es que soy ciudadano americano, muy orgulloso de mi herencia mexicana, de mi cultura mexicana, de ser hispano. Yo soy de la opinión de que cuando ponemos un policía en una escuela elemental de niños chiquitos, da una percepción o un aspecto de que algo está mal, no solo con esa escuela, sino que algo está mal con esa comunidad. Y más allá, por encima de todo, que algo está mal con ese grupo étnico. Pistolas. Yo fui profesor por 34 años. Yo tuve estudiantes que mataron. Yo tuve estudiantes que mataron a otras personas. Yo tuve la experiencia de todo eso. Yo estoy muy en contra de las armas. Mucho más cuando está una persona armada cerca de niños. Ahora, nosotros vivimos en una comunidad, la ciudad de Salinas, si no me equivoco, no es una ciudad santuaria o santuario. Creo que el concilio votó en contra de hacer esta ciudad santuario. En cambio, nuestro distrito sí es distrito santuario. Los policías que queremos poner van a tener ciertas obligaciones, pero no sabemos del futuro, no sabemos si el día de mañana el gobierno federal decida que un policía puede hacer el trabajo de alguien que puede deportar a personas o dilatar a personas que están aquí indocumentadas. Según los policías de recursos especiales, van a hacer ciertos trabajos como cuidar contra anti-bullying, cuidar contra pandillas, cuidar contra otras cosas. Pero esas son responsabilidades y obligaciones de nuestro distrito, de nuestros profesores, de nuestro personal, no de policías. También estamos hablando de un sector de nuestra población cuya voz no se ha escuchado, y las personas que temen a que un policía esté conectado con, digamos, la gente de deportación. Ese punto de vista no se ha escuchado. No hemos escuchado de ese segmento, ese sector de la comunidad. Okay. Ahora, yo estuve a favor cuando vinieron otras personas, como digo, pero todos tenemos derecho a cambiar de opinión. Entonces, yo no estoy en contra de la policía. Yo tengo 3 estudiantes que fueron míos, que son parte del departamento de policías de Salinas. Tengo 2 que son parte del departamento del condado de Monterrey, son sheriffes de Monterrey. No estoy en contra de ellos, estoy en contra de armas en nuestras escuelas y el papel que debe desenvolver la escuela a división del papel que debe desenvolver un policía de recursos escolares. Son muy diferentes. Okay? I'll summarize. What I mentioned is that, and I'll be very brief. What I mentioned is that the image that is portrayed by having a police officer in a school, in my opinion, is a negative one. It lends to the idea that there's something wrong with the school, there's something wrong with the community, there's something wrong with that ethnic group. And I know that from experience because I've experienced people coming toward me to take care of me or others like me because we are of a certain ethnicity. The other thing is that policemen have a certain role to play in the community, but their role is not in the school. Their role is not to guard against anti-bullying, against gangs, against all these other things. We have systems in place and programs in place that are already doing that. That is our obligation and our responsibility as a board and as a district. Okay? I don't want my grandchildren near guns. I've had, in 34 years of being a teacher, I had students who killed others. I had students killed by guns. I'm very anti-gun. And SRO officers are there to supposedly do one thing, but who's to say that the federal government could come up with something tomorrow and say you are now going to have other duties, and part of those duties is, tell about someone who's undocumented. We are a sanctuary district, but I don't believe we are a sanctuary city. Okay, so I'd like to end with that, and I would like to entertain a vote when the time comes of no to this item.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Or anybody else have any kind of comment? Okay, Ms. Ramirez.
So I stated in the last board meeting, I don't know how the Californian likes to turn my words out of context, but I said I would vote no on this. And I voted no on it as a board member for the Salinas High School District. And if anybody came here today to think that I was going to vote yes, you're sadly mistaken. I'll tell you, because I've seen kids knocked to the ground in the high school district, and I felt disheartened as a board member that I couldn't do anything. And when the superintendent comes to me and tells me that when he was the principal of a school and that he wanted to leave education altogether because of what was happening in our schools with our SROs, the current Salinas High School District superintendent, it made me cry. I have a 20-year-old son, I have a 16-year-old daughter. I'm more concerned about my son in this community, both ways, because of the streets and because of the police. I worry about him all the time, If if I can get pulled over for being on my phone and the police officer can yell at me and treat me like crap, because I won't roll my window down all the way because I'm afraid of him, but I roll it down enough. I don't break the law. I'm not a felon. I even, if I have to tell a police officer I'm going to pay the ticket, just write it and let me be on my way. Stop yelling at me. I mean, if that happens to me, and they know who I am because they read my plate before they get out of the car. Everyone in Salinas knows who Catherine Ramirez is after all that media I've had in the last year, and I get treated like that. I'm concerned about how our kids are gonna get treated and how our parents who don't have a voice, because you darn well better believe that when I get pulled over and I get treated terribly by a police officer, every city council member and the mayor knows about it as soon as I can get to them. Ask Kimberly. I tell them all what my experience is, because I'm vocal. And, when we talk, and here I was looking at this, thank you for this. I appreciate this, Building Healthy Communities. Wish you would have given it to me sooner. But I'm looking at it, and it says that the SPD is not training its members regularly on implicit bias, cultural awareness, or procedural justice. And maybe they are now. But implicit bias and cultural awareness are not trainings. They're a culture, they're a way of being. And I guarantee that most of the people in this room have not looked at their own implicit bias. Okay? Because I'm looking at mine right now, and I'm finding out that I have traits of a dominant culture, and because all of us assimilate as we grow up here in America. Okay, so I'm not perfect myself. But when we have a community, a city that allows live PD to come in to Salinas and show what our community is going through, and that's okay, I don't want that. I don't want that in my schools. We're a good community. How come Live PD is not in Monterey? How come they're not in Carmel? Right? I mean, how come Washington Union, Spreckles, and San Bernardino aren't considering SROs? Why is it in our, well, yeah, but a board member for the Salinas High School District said during a board meeting that he was a police officer and that he was trained to shoot and kill. Now, I'm not saying that, but that's an implicit bias. That's an implicit bias. And if you've ever walked down the street, I'm gonna give you an example as a person of color. I mean, people tell me all the time, oh, you go to East Salinas and you must be afraid. No, probably know half the people there. Not afraid. But, if a woman feels like she's gonna be mugged by somebody, have you ever had that feeling where you feel like someone's gonna attack you or rape you or mug you? That's how some people in this room, maybe not the rape, but that's the fear, that same fear that some people of color feel when there's a police officer. What if a parent is undocumented and their child is in trouble, and then all of a sudden the attention starts to be on the parent who's not documented, and then we've created that problem in our own schools, and we already have enough mental health issues to deal with in our district, with our children just being a part, having live PD that's causing some of it. And so I'm here, I can't support this. I don't think that the proper place in our schools is to have police officers, and I'm voting no.
Any other comments?
Okay, well, it seems to me that, our city has a crisis of trust when it comes to police officers. And, for good reason. These kids can go on the internet and see just brutal things that have happened for someone that's carrying a box cutter or pliers or whatever. And I think that this is they're trying to attempt to close that chasm of trust, starting with the young folks, you know, and saying that here's a police officer, he means you no harm, he's a good guy, you know, we love this guy, this armed fella in your school. I don't know if that's the right way to approach things, you know. Our schools feel safe. Our culture is set, you know. We deal with things by being responsible and standing up to bullies, and we're trying to teach our kids to be self-sufficient on that level versus running and telling a police officer or whatever. So, you know, if our schools are supposed to be like a second home, you know, would I welcome a program where they want to put a police officer in my home? An armed police officer in my home? I don't think so. So, you know, the parents have come before and spoke to us in favor of SROs. And, you know, they tend to come in fear to say, we don't feel safe. And how can you not put the police officer there so I will feel safe? But on the other hand, there's a super knee-jerk reaction to just the presence of a police officer for our parents who are undocumented. I mean, and that may not be a reality either. I mean, obviously, that police officer's not there to cause any problems with our parents. We're not supposed to share information with ICE. I think we are essentially. But the implicit gut reaction is, I'm scared. And like Mr. Ramos said, I just think we're so divided on this. This is something that I would want to see, you know, a unification behind before taking a step like this. So I too vote no.
Does anybody else have any comments? Or
Well, I feel it was important for me to get out of my sick bed to attend this meeting because I heard that there was going to be people speaking on behalf of, in favor of SROs and against SROs. And I have an interest of 2 grandchildren that attend one of the elementary schools. And I do want the best for them. I do want them to feel secure. I do want them to have confidence in the police officers, not to fear them because they're carrying a gun. I want their environment to be secure. And so far, I know that it is secure. But I'm kind of, I have to vote my heart. And I can't tell you what I'm going to vote yet because I still need to find out more resource or more information concerning SROs. Because right now, it's very out there and I don't have enough data and enough information concerning this. And I understand, you know, the community and those that are against it. And I hear your voice and I want to do what's right as far as choosing yes or no as far as this is concerned. And so at this point, I have no concrete vote yet to say yes or no. And I need more data, I need more information, and before I make my decision. And that's me. I can't just, because a room full of people are saying, oh, well, we feel this way, and I hear your votes, and I mean, I hear your concerns, but I need more data, I need more information. So that's how I am as far as a trustee. I don't want to vote my heart, I want to vote what's right. So that's how I feel.
thank you very much. So I'm going to call for a vote.
tonight. And the reason for that is I think we need some resolution to this. It's been going on for almost 4 months for us, and we have so many pressing issues that are very important to us as well, not that this isn't. But I wanted to explain what I feel, because everybody else has had an opportunity to. And I'm going to go back 2 years ago when Martha came to us and asked us to, you know, if we would be interested. At that time, I said, I didn't feel comfortable voting on anything that the community was not aware of. I didn't feel like we could make a decision for the parents and the children of this community without listening to them. Listening to you tonight, I think there's a tremendous amount of misconception of what the school resource officer's role is. Listening to parents who wanted them, I thought there was misconception. Like Mr. Kim said, they came to us wanting a safer school environment. That is not the role of the school resource officer. I'm hearing from you just the opposite, that they are threatening, and that is really an important thing to validate. I just don't feel like there's enough information in the community for you to buy in to school resource officers. If you heard what I had heard, you would probably say, take away the name school resource officer and just call him a guy. And you'd probably say, oh yeah, I want that guy on the campus. But when I hear you talk about your perception of someone on campus with a gun, until Ms. Ramirez brought up the fact that school resource officers had access to student records without parent permission, I had no idea that that was so. And I am completely against any kind of information being given out about children without their parents knowing it. So with that in mind, I think the premise of school resource officers is wonderful, but I think the details are not good right now in the contract and in the community. So I am going to call for a vote, and then we'll see what happens. So I'm looking for a motion.
I move that we disapprove of school resource officers in the Salinas City Elementary School District.
Okay, there's been a motion by Mr. Estrada to not approve school resource officers for Salinas City Elementary School District, and a second by Ms. Ramirez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
All opposed?
And we have one abstention.
Yes.
And we understand the reason. So with that, tonight, school resource officers in this Salinas City Elementary School District will not be happening. So thank